Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I'm coming with a full-blown video breaking down everything that went down in the Martin Mayhew Ron Rivera press conference earlier today. Apparently, Washington wants more draft picks. Rivera and Mayhew draft plans from their presser. I'm gonna analyze, break down, review everything that went down in that presser, and we definitely got to dive into a lot of notable quotes because there's a lot to unpack here. I mean, it's Terry McLaurin's extension, what they plan on doing with the 11th pick, moving up, moving down, what they plan on doing throughout the draft, their big board, first round grades on players, all kind of updates on Chase Young and Curtis Samuel injuries, and I mean just all kinds of stuff. Are they considering bringing in a quarterback in the draft, and if so, when, early or late? Finding a replacement of the Buffalo nickel after losing Landon Collins. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately, and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I will be live streaming tomorrow, so make sure y'all pull up for that. Ziggy, change 3:30 p.m. alarm to 5:30 p.m. I will be live streaming at 6 p.m. tomorrow, so make sure y'all pull up. We're gonna do everything draft. I'm gonna show y'all the prospects list of all of the targeted players that I've already done videos on. I came out with the final list yesterday with 49 players. There's probably more out there, but that was like the best I could do for trying to find as many as I could. And I wanted to stick to like confirmed guys with like official meetings or any like strong reports that we were interested in, guys. So again, there's probably like 100 names out there that we could actually connect to the Washington Commanders, but I tried to restrict it to like the guys that they seem the most interested in. But yeah, for the live stream, we're gonna do mock drafts. I'm gonna open up the phone lines for y'all to call in and give y'all opinions on everything, really. Like, do you want to talk about certain players that I may not even know about? All of that type of stuff, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun talking about team needs, looking at the guys that we want. We're gonna discuss who's better. Like, do you prefer Drake London? Do you prefer Garrett Wilson, and why? All that type of stuff. So man, make sure y'all pull up for that. And if you're not a channel member, definitely go become one, because the film sessions will be going leading up to the draft for the guys that I want us to go get, a lot of the prospects that I like. And then during the draft and after the draft, I'm gonna be doing film sessions on all of the guys that we brought in, even the undrafted free agents. So if you're not a channel member, go become one so you can get access to all of those film sessions, because I'll probably only do like a couple that I actually edit, organize like I normally do, and put out to everybody, not just the channel members. But if you want access to every film session that I do on every player that we bring in as of Thursday, go become a channel member. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into it. First of all, like I already said, Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera had a press conference today. They talked about a lot of topics. We're just going to go ahead and dive in and take a look at everything. Starting with, first of all, the 11th overall pick. Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew basically said anything involving the 11th overall pick is almost unpredictable. Ron Rivera and Mayhew echo other views that the top of this draft is rather unpredictable. Standard mention of pondering various scenarios included. So trade-wise, as far as moving up, moving down, Martin Mayhew said that he talked to other GMs around the league, and there's some interest there both ways, with teams looking to move up and back. Mayhew said that there's some interest from other teams about moving up and down in the first round. Their decision on whether that's an avenue the Commanders want to take will depend on how the picks in front of them turn out. So I don't expect us before the draft to move up, move back, and I think moving back is definitely the far more likely option that we're gonna take. I mean, whether it's the better option or not, you know, that's a debate. But as far as more realistic, obviously trading back is more realistic than trading up, because I don't think there's any player that they care about that much. And we're going to dive into that quarterback wise and all of that later on in the video. But right now, specifically trading up and trading back wise, anything's open. But I also want to say that don't expect any craziness to start happening until the draft, because even right here, Martin Mayhew said that everything is going to depend on what goes on the picks in front of them. If all of the players that they like, say like Kyle Hamilton, Drake London, all of those guys, and we're also going to talk about that as well. If all of those guys are off of the board, everybody that they just happen to like gets taken before the 11th pick, then it's like very likely we'll trade back. But if one of the guys they really likes is there at 11, multiple of them, they have their pick of the litter, they have their pick, they have options, I think they'll more than likely just go ahead and stay there at 11 and take their guy and not even risk trading back and not getting them. I think they care about a certain few guys that much to where they feel like it's not even worth trading back unless everybody's just gone. But the interesting thing is that Martin Mayhew said that he doubts that Washington will end the draft with the same 6 picks it has right now. He said earlier the middle of this draft is strong. He loves the middle of the draft. So it does sound quite likely that we will trade back. Again, we're far more likely to trade back than to trade up. And one of the main reasons is because we just don't have that many picks. We have 6 picks. We don't have a 3rd or a 5th rounder. We only have 1 first, 1 second, 1 4th. Those aren't a lot of draft picks for arguably the deepest draft in NFL history. Like, pure facts, quantity-wise, this is the deepest draft in NFL history, but you can debate whether or not quality-wise. But quantity-wise, deepest draft in NFL history due to the pandemic. A lot of guys opted to stay another year in college, and a lot of those guys are coming out this year when they should have came out last year under normal circumstances. So now this draft just has so many players, and really good players are going to fall further in the draft than they normally would in a normal draft setting. So it's just very advantageous to have extra seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, all of that, because a guy that you can get in the 5th round this year probably would have went in the 4th round last year or next year. So it's just like, I can definitely see the logic behind why they may want to trade back. Even if they take a guy at 11, maybe they trade back from their 2nd round pick to get more 3rds and 4ths. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. I believe Martin Mayhew when he says that he doubts that we'll leave with the same 6 picks that we have. Now, I hope this isn't just some we trade one of our 6 and get like a couple of more 7s or something like that. I'm assuming that for him to say it like that, that includes, especially since he's emphasized that he likes the middle of the draft, whatever they're going to do, whatever moves they make, means that they're going to probably acquire more 2nd to 5th round picks. But again, the 1st round pick, I think is more likely that they will stay at 11 and get their guy if he's there. But definitely the backup option is trading back, and I think it's just very unlikely that we trade up. But Martin Mayhew said in terms of trading back, it's all about who's there when on the clock. Can you go back and still get a player you have conviction on? If there's a guy at 11 we have conviction on, we'll take that player. Like I just said, if one of the guys that they really like is there at 11, they're going to take him. But you got to figure out like who are these guys that they like, and we're going to dive into that, especially as far as like Drake London and Kyle Hamilton goes later on in this video. But as far as the middle of the draft goes, Ron Rivera said it's not one of those drafts where you sit there and say these are got the habits. Martin Mayhew said there's a really good middle to this draft, but the middle starts pretty quickly. And draft board wise, Rivera said that the Commanders draft board was set last Friday. So that's really interesting. They already know what they want to do. They're set in stone on what they're doing. They already know exactly what players they like, how much they like them, in what order, all of that type of stuff. So from now on, it's just trying to finesse your way to get those guys, whether that's trading up, trading back, staying where you are, making calls to other teams. So the fact that they've already known exactly who they like and how much they like them since last Friday, since then and up until the draft Thursday, they've had time to figure out what movements they may make during the draft. So, I mean, that's pretty encouraging there, but we'll see if they actually utilize it. And then Ron Rivera also said that they had several 1st round grades on players in this draft. So I guess there's a lot of options there at 11. I mean, I don't know what several means. Technically, by definition, is that 3? Or could that be like 15? Who knows? I don't really know what to do right there. I think it's fairly obvious that they have some 1st round grades on players in the draft. There's no way anybody just hates this draft so much that they don't have multiple players with 1st round grades that they may be interested in. Because I don't think that's including guys like Aiden Hutchinson, which is like a position that we don't necessarily need, especially that high in the draft. But I think that means that there are a few players that they actually really like at positions of need that they feel like they can get in the 1st round. So maybe that means they're willing to trade back. If you can trade back and get those 2 Saints first or those 2 firsts from the Kansas City, maybe they do that because they like so many players in the 1st and they want to get as many of them as possible. Who knows? And then also, as far as draft strategy goes, Rivera mentioned multiple offensive players who made progress last season, including Sadiq Charles, Keith Ishmael, Diami Brown, and Antonio Gibson. That to me sounds like they're not going to stress over interior offensive line, wide receiver, and running back if they don't have to. They're not going to reach. They're not just going to fill a guy because they really need it. If now there happens to be one of the best players available at that position when their time to pick is up there, especially like at 11, then I could definitely see them taking receiver. But if they don't take a guy in the 1st round at 11, and by the time we get to pick 47 and they don't really love any of those guys, I could definitely see them not taking receiver just to not force it, because again, they believe in De'Ami Brown, they believe in Antonio Gibson, so they want to address running back, but they believe in Antonio Gibson enough to not force it. And same thing with interior offensive line with Sadiq Charles and Keith Ishmael. It would be nice to bring in a starting caliber right guard so Wes Schweitzer can be the backup and Sadiq Charles can be just really good depth, but it sounds like when in doubt, they're not going to stress themselves over that, and they'll probably bring a guard in way later in the draft, or as like an undrafted free agent or something like that. And receiver, maybe they wait till like the 4th round. We'll see. Rivera also reiterated that he expects the Commanders to take a step forward this year, mentioned the team has some young guys who have played a lot already, and he's looking forward to them going further. And so basically talking about those guys right there and just the overall team. Also, really interesting note about quarterback. Ron Rivera said that he did have, quote, a guy, unquote, among the rookie first-round quarterbacks that he particularly liked before trading for Wentz. He said doing research on the quarterback class helps as a reference point for possible trades at 11. So there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, there was a guy that he really liked as a quarterback prospect, but that was before they traded for Carson Wentz. And the fact that he emphasized the fact that it was before they traded for Carson Wentz, as of right now that we traded for Carson Wentz, that guy just sounds like he's off the table, which pretty much just completely rules out the chance that we take quarterback in the 1st round. You know, I still really want Malik Willis, but I've already accepted weeks ago that we're not getting him, and that just further proves that we really aren't. Even if it was Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, any of those guys, whoever Ron Rivera liked, apparently he liked them a lot, but now it's to the point that you traded for Carson Wentz, and that Carson Wentz situation is really interesting, because like, how much do they actually like him if they haven't extended him, if they haven't restructured his contract? They still have him in a situation to where if he is terrible this upcoming season, if he gets hurt or whatever, they don't believe in him, they want to move on, they can with no dead money left over. So that doesn't sound like a guy that they truly believe in, which is kind of weird. Like, if you're not going to take a quarterback that you really like in the draft, but then you also don't truly believe in Carson Wentz, you're not 100% behind him, sounds a little conflicting there. And then the second half of that tweet, the fact that he said he did research on the quarterback class as a reference point for possible trades at 11, I think that's smart. Bring in these quarterbacks, get a feel for who they are, what fits they may have for certain teams, and so that you can have an idea in your head when teams are calling about trading up to your pick or even trading back to your pick, you know how to finesse the situation and get the most value out of it, because you've already evaluated these quarterbacks as if you wanted them. So you're looking from their point of view when you're having these trade discussions. So I like that quote. That's one of the better quotes out of this whole press conference that I like. And speaking of Carson Wentz, Ron Rivera also said that the Commanders basically have not been active in free agency because of how much cap space they spent on Carson Wentz ahead of free agency, which is just one of the main reasons, top 3, probably even top 2 reasons why I hate the trade. I mean, again, at the end of the day, Carson Wentz is our quarterback for the 2022 season, so I'm not going to hate on him. I'm ready to ride this until the wheels fall off, because this is my team. It is what it is. I didn't like the decision, and again, I'm going to be behind him. I'm going to support him, and I'm going to wish the best for him, because I hope it works out at this point after we already lost all of that trade capital and we're missing out on Malik Willis and all of these quarterbacks in this class. I hope it works out. But again, for that reason right there, top 3 reasons why I don't like the Carson Wentz trade, the reason that we didn't even try to go get Bobby Wagner, the reason we haven't been able to extend Terry McLaurin yet, is because Carson Wentz is taking up so much cap space. The reason we couldn't have gone crazy in free agency and actually went after some big names is because we traded for Carson Wentz, who's technically a big name himself, and now he's eating up all of this cap space, so we're struggling to pay players from other teams and players currently on our team, again, Terry McLaurin and Daron Payne. But Ron Rivera did speak highly of Carson Wentz in this press conference. He said having Carson Wentz adds a whole new element to the Commanders' offense, and I do agree with that. Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Taylor Heinicke. I just hate all of the stuff that we're losing out on getting this guy. Missing out on potentially taking a quarterback in the 1st round. I really wanted Malik Willis, of course, y'all already know this. And also all of the trade value that we gave up. We don't have a 3rd round pick this year, and we probably won't have a 3rd or a 2nd next year because of this Carson Wentz trade. So if it doesn't work out, we're just going to be feeling stupid next year. And then again, they don't even all the way believe in it. You give up all of that, you're passing up on all of this talent, you're giving up all of this cap space, you're not signing guys in free agency, and then you're still not even 100% behind this guy. guy because you haven't finessed his contract to go over the course of a few years. You still have it set up to where if you need to press the red button, the eject button real quick, you can after this season and have no dick cap. So it's like we're not even putting all of our eggs in one basket, but at the same time, you kind of are when you're giving up all of those draft picks and punting on potentially getting a franchise quarterback in this draft where they're going to fall further than a normal draft. I mean, again, I like Bryce Young, I like CJ Stroud, and we'll see about all of these other quarterbacks in this upcoming class, but how are you going to get them? I doubt we're going to have a high draft pick. With Taylor Heineke as your starting quarterback, one of the worst injury situations in the NFL, and literally the league's hardest schedule in the NFL, and we still managed to win 7 games. I think our floor has to be 7 games this upcoming season because even if Carson Wentz gets hurt, Taylor Heineke is still your quarterback. There's no way we're as unhealthy as we were last year. There's just no way. Just law of averages, we just can't. And then we went from having the league's toughest schedule in 2021 to literally the league's easiest schedule, from literally number 1 hardest to 32nd hardest going into this 2022 season. So our floor has to be 7 wins. There's just no way, in all honesty, that we can be worse than last year, in my opinion, with all of those factors included. So we're not going to have a high draft pick. If you want to go and get one of those top guys, you're going to have to do an RG3 like trade, which is cool. I mean, if you really believe in Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I understand it, but I just personally feel like Malik Willis at 11 or maybe even further back than that is a better risk to take than trading 3 firsts to move up to get like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, but we'll see. We'll see in a few years how it all works out. Rivera also repeats his mantra of needing to protect Carson Wentz and also put dynamic playmakers around him. If we can't get one, we have to make sure we get the other one to help him. So the priority is blocking. He wants to make sure the offensive line is built up first. That's first and foremost. And then after that, if the offensive line is great, then you go after receiver. But if for some reason we can't get the offensive line solid and top 5 like how we had it last year, then they're just going to do all that they can to get a whole bunch of weapons around them so guys can always be open. We can throw the ball quicker, get it out of his hands quicker, so he gets hit way less and pressure doesn't even matter. Rivera also said he's appreciated how Carson Wentz has been interacting with his new players and coaches. It creates a kind of vibe that you look for, and there's positive energy around the building. I got to see it to believe it. I mean, until I see what's going on with that situation, I'm not believing in none of that because we hyped up Ryan Fitzpatrick like that. We've hyped up several guys like that, and then you see how that turned out. Same thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Is Carson Wentz even going to be able to stay healthy? And then as far as Terry McLaurin goes, because I know a lot of people probably pulled up to this video just for this, don't even care about the draft. Are we going to pay Terry or not? Martin Mayhew basically said, as far as contract talks with Terry McLaurin, he said, quote, "We have had dialogue with Terry and his agent. We're really excited about the opportunity of having Terry continue with us for a long time," unquote. Martin Mayhew said that he has great respect for Terry McLaurin and is enticed by the idea of having him stay with Washington for a long time. Ron Rivera, meanwhile, says Terry's contract situation won't impact draft plans at all, which is really interesting. So it sounds like, I mean, regardless of whether they're going to pay Terry McLaurin big time money long term, it's not going to affect whether or not they take Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams, any of these other receivers in the first round, if that's what they already want to do. Terry McLaurin's contract situation has no factor in it, and I mean, I feel like that's how it should be. You shouldn't, like, I hate the petty idea that if somebody has brought up that maybe they're using the draft as a way to convince Terry to sign back for cheaper, like, oh, we already drafted your replacement, so we don't need to re-sign you, so you got to take less money. I don't think it's anything petty like that at all. I think they want to pay Terry McLaurin, and they also want to get a big playmaker opposite of Terry McLaurin so that he can be open more often. And then as far as Chase Young, Ron Rivera said that Chase Young has been doing really well, and it's great to see him in the facility and attack the rehab. And like I already did an update a few days ago, like the fact that Chase Young doesn't even have a leg brace on is crazy to me. Rivera says that Young is focused, quote, fired up, attacking his rehab, unquote. But he didn't say anything about a timetable. But again, I mean, Chase Young is further ahead than I thought he would be at this point, so I'm very optimistic. Rivera also said that there is no time frame on Chase Young's return from his ACL tear by choice. They are happy with his recovery process, which is what matters. Young is in Ashburn working with Al Bellamy, the new head athletic trainer. So he's already in there putting in work. We signed him. We hired him as the new athletic trainer, and he's already with my boy Young over there getting to work and getting everything down pat, getting them back up to speed. Speaking of getting back up to speed, Curtis Samuel. The strength and conditioning staff has told Ron Rivera that Curtis Samuel is looking really good thus far. No football activities have happened, but Ron likes the initial reports on Samuel. Again, got to see it to believe it, but it's whatever. I just got to report these things because they were said, but I mean, I don't know how true, how much to believe in these things. Ron Rivera also said that Curtis Samuel looks good and that he's received positive feedback from trainers about the wide receiver. Quote, when you do see him moving around, you feel pretty confident about him, unquote. And that's from Rivera. Also, very random, Ron Rivera spoke about Kyle Smith. He said, talking about the draft process this year versus the past 2 years where COVID changed so much, and this is like kind of the first time it's been relatively normal since the pandemic. He mentions Kyle Smith's work in 2020 and that what Smith did during that period was pretty doggone good. Washington selected Young, Gibson, and Curl that year, so that's really notable, but I mean, I just don't see how that really helps us at this point. Somebody else got to step up as well. And then lastly, Buffalo defense. Rivera said, quote, the intent is to develop the Buffalo defense that we have, unquote. Washington has a vacancy at that position right now because it cut Landon Collins, so it sounds like Kyle Hamilton, available at 11, sounds like he's probably their main priority. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's been reports though that apparently Drake London is the higher priority. It's Drake London, then Kyle Hamilton. I feel like Kyle Hamilton should be first, but I know a lot of people don't even want to take a safety that high unless it's literally the second coming of Sean Taylor. But Daniel Jeremiah even spoke about the pick over the 11th overall pick for the Washington Commanders, and it wasn't even like he was giving his opinion. He said, quote, the name I've heard connected to them a lot is Drake London, the other one is Kyle Hamilton, unquote. So that sounds like those are the two guys, but from reports and rumors that I've heard around, it sounds like Drake London may be number one on the big board and Kyle Hamilton may be second, and then everybody else after that. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, depending on like what's going on with all these reports and whether they're true, false, whatever. Rumors, confirmed reports, trustworthy sources, whatever. I think, honestly, the strategy is to take the best player available as like one of those defensive backs, like say Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley falls, or for some crazy reason, Sauce Gardner makes it to the 11th pick. I think that would be our priority. And then after that, if all of those guys are gone, then maybe they will prioritize receiver with the 11th overall pick. But like I've already said, all of these receiver meetings, bringing them in for top 30 visits and talking to them all the time in the combine and basically being like, hey, look at us. The Washington Commanders are really interested in a lot of receivers. It may just be a smokescreen. Maybe they'll attack receiver like in the second. Maybe if they do some trades, they'll get a receiver in the third, fourth round. And maybe they're just trying to get guys to do whatever they can to take receiver as soon as possible to allow other players to fall to them on the big board. I mean, say like the Eagles really want a receiver. Now that it looks like we're really interested in one, now they may even trade up to get the receiver they really like because we're applying pressure by making it look like we really want one at 11. Who knows? I mean, I honestly don't know, but I think honestly, for real, the priority is a Kyle Hamilton, Derek Stingley, or Ahmad Sauce Gardner, and then receiver is probably secondary, and they'd be okay with waiting to take a receiver maybe in the second round or later. I mean, y'all already know me. I feel like the best value for receivers late first and early second, because I like George Pickens more than I like the Ohio State guys, just straight up. Like, even if you were to take them at the same pick, I could kind of see an argument for Garrett Wilson. I mean, I like Chris Olave, like Garrett Wilson. I feel like they both have high floor, especially Chris Olave, and I like Garrett Wilson's ceiling, but I think George Pickens, I mean, I could definitely see him ending up being the best receiver from this draft, especially since he'll probably go later in the draft to a better situation, a better offense, a better quarterback, most importantly. But again, I just feel like value-wise, you might as well wait to take receiver if you trade back in the first or take one earlier in the second, maybe something like that. I could definitely see that. And then, I mean, of course, also, as far as Kyle Hamilton goes, if you can't get Derek Stingley, Kyle Hamilton, or Ahmad Sauce Gardner, I highly doubt he makes it to 11, but who knows? Crazy things happen in the draft. I think my boy Daxton Hill is probably next up right there to be that guy. I don't think they take him with 11, but if it's likely that they will trade back, I could definitely see us taking Daxton Hill late in the first if we do end up trading back in the first. So look out for that, of course. Because again, it sounds like they really want to go and develop that Buffalo defense, get some guys that are versatile. Kyle Hamilton and Daxton Hill are both very versatile. But again, Ron Rivera has said several times in several different ways that the priority is to get Carson Wentz as much help as possible. But again, he said that he wants to prioritize offensive line more than the weapons. And then if they can't get offensive line down, they'll try to get weapons. But it doesn't sound like getting more receivers is like the strongest priority. Again, I think it's secondary. I think it may be offensive line right behind that, and then maybe receiver third. But we'll see. Who knows, man? They may shock us all and take Garrett Wilson with the 11th overall pick. I wouldn't be crazy surprised, because right now the draft is wide open. This is probably the most confusing. Nobody knows what they're talking about. Nobody knows what's going on draft of all time. I love Travon Walker. Love him to death. Georgia Bulldog. Y'all know me, man. All of my Georgia Bulldogs, rooting for them to become Hall of Famers at the next level. But this random, out of nowhere, he's possibly going to be the first overall pick. I think that's just draft buzz. They've been talking about Aiden Hutchinson for so long that now, to keep the clicks going, to keep people reading articles and listening to podcasts and watching videos, now they just got to talk about a new guy that may go first overall to keep the draft interesting, rather than us knowing Aiden Hutchinson is going first overall for the past like 5 months. So we'll see. I mean, maybe Travon Walker does go first overall. Maybe the draft buzz is real, but I think honestly it's just a whole bunch of trying to create headlines type of thing. And honestly, right now, nobody knows what's going on at all with the draft. We have no idea how this big board will fall. I could see no quarterbacks going in the top 20. I can also see how 3 quarterbacks can go before we pick at 11. Like, nobody has no idea what's going on. So it's hard to predict anything. So that's why it's really hard to be surprised about anything, because what are our primary expectations anyway going into this draft? So this is gonna be really fun, man. Like I already said, I'm gonna be live streaming Thursday, Friday, and some of Saturday as well. Round 1 on Thursday, rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, and then at least round 4 on Saturday. So we'll see how all of that goes. But yeah, man, I appreciate all of the support, man. Shouts out to all of y'all. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, definitely subscribe to the channel. If you haven't, go become a channel member, because I will be doing film sessions on all of the players that I want us to draft leading up to the draft. And then as of Thursday, once we start drafting guys and bringing guys in, I'll start doing film sessions on those guys as well. And the channel members are going to get all of them. Everybody else is only going to probably get a couple. So, man, stay tuned for all of that. And of course, again, I appreciate all of my supporters. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors. You name you see scrolling on the screen right now. But I really appreciate y'all. I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.